Hi, I'm Pav.
And I'm Neil.
And welcome to the Top 10 of Anything podcast.
Let's start the countdown.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. To become a sporting icon takes passion, commitment, a single-minded vision to be the very best at whatever you do. Some sporting icons have that sliver of the devil inside them. Maybe that's why they are sporting icons. Here's our own sliver of the devil with 10 sporting icon facts. Hit it, Neil.
Thank you very much, Pav. So, Roger Bannister held the world record in the mile for exactly 46 days.
I hope it was worth it, my friend, because you've got a night in the clink coming up.
When the Americans defeated the favourite England in the 1950 World Cup, the story goes that many newspapers around the world believed the 1-0 score to be a typo and instead printed that England won 10-1.
Jordan Clarkson almost came in my lap.
In the 1970s, Jack Nicklaus played all 40 majors and made the top 10 in 35 of them.
At least he held on to the helmet.
Tiger Woods once made 142 straight cuts, topping Jack Nicklaus's record by 37 and routinely leading the next best active player by 100 or more so tournaments.
Welcome to your Kodak moment.
Babe Ruth only won 4 World Series in 15 seasons with the New York Yankees.
Well, the bowler's holding, the batsman's winning.
Bob Bowman's 1968 Olympic record in the long jump would have won the 2012 Olympics by almost 2 feet.
Where's the cue ball going?
Starting in 1990, Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls never had a 3-game losing streak for 8 years.
Unbelievable, Jeff.
And before becoming known as Muhammad Ali, he changed his name to Cassius X.
Oh, fiddlesticks.
Pele scored a total of 1,283 first-class goals, including 77 for Brazil.
Unbelievable, Jeff.
And John McEnroe was ranked number 1 in the world for 4 years straight, 1981 to 1984.
Well, the bowler's holding, the batsman's winning.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Neil, for those wonderful facts. That little sliver of the devil I can see. I've seen many times. Welcome. Top 10 sporting icons, and we couldn't think of anyone better to join us for this than the one and only Ollie from the Team of Our Lives podcast. Hello. Welcome again, Ollie. It's lovely to have you here.
It's lovely to be back. And you promised me you're not going to play the Aguero.
It is not on my soundboard.
As last time.
I honestly... It's not anywhere to be seen, so don't worry.
There we go.
You've had a bad enough season as it is. I don't need to rub the salt in the wounds any deeper.
It's quite, yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's quite all right. Cheers. Thanks for having me back, guys. Pleasure.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
So, with both of you guys, what were your guidelines and criteria for this top 10? Because for me, a lot of them are personal sporting icons, as opposed to somebody that you could generally say is a sporting icon. For I'd say probably 75% of the ones I've got in my top 10 are personal to me only. So start with you, Ollie. Where did you set yourself?
I went quite route one. I've gone through maybe there's 1 or 2 personal ones in there, but I've gone route one. First thing I've done was define icon, because I've got my interpretation of it. I'm sure everyone else has as well, as you rightly said, Pav, just now. So Google defines it as a person or thing widely admired, especially for having great influence or significance in a particular sphere, which is a sporting sphere. But I think my interpretation is, kind of personally, that person has to be synonymous with the sport. You think of the sport, you instantly think of that person, or kind of vice versa. I also think they have to be one of the world's greatest in that sport, and an ambassador for the sport after they retired as well. And to kind of, spoiler alert, LeBron James isn't in my top 10.
Right.
I think a significant amount of time has to have passed so you can look back on the history of that player and what they accomplished and how the sport might have changed because of the influence of that person. And it's only when you look back on the history of the sport that you can really tell the impact of an athlete and if they're icon worthy. Because there's football, for example, there's millions of good players, there's thousands of great players, there's hundreds of potential icons, but really there's only 4 or 5. So yeah, it was a difficult list to compile, I'll be honest with you. And because I do a football podcast, I was kind of beating myself up about putting too many footballers in. So I think I've got 2 in there.
Yeah. I think I'm the same. I've got 2. Yeah. Go on then, Neil. What was your criteria?
Well, very similar to you, Pav. I used it as personal icons. That was the easier way that I could work out what to do on that sort of list.
Have you got 10 Tottenham players? You can't tell me you got
no. I've only got 2 footballers in there.
I've got 2. That's weird that we both all got 2 footballers.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird.
So we restricted ourselves.
But it also was sportsmen that I would watch as a child.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I've got 3 footballers. There you go. I ruined that now.
Oh.
Sorry, guys. I've just seen that. Yeah. But yeah, it was a lot of it was from when I was growing up. What introduced me, sports that bizarrely that I got into a little bit when I was younger. Don't watch them now at all. But yeah, it was these people that got me to watch.
Yeah. Cool. So just to remind you, Ollie, if you happen to have one that we've also got, I've got some at number 10 that you got number 4, let us know and we'll talk about it all at the same time.
Yeah, no worries.
We may have a few duplicates on this, but every time I think we're going to get loads of duplicates, we get hardly any. So let's see how it goes. Shoot then, Ollie. Give us your number 10 sporting icon.
Coming in at number 10, and this is going to be a rogue one, and if anyone else has got this, I'm going to be very, very surprised. I've gone for Tony Hawk.
Okay. I can appreciate that.
Surprising, interesting.
Interested because I'm one of these people that will always wish they could skateboard. Bought a skateboard, tried and couldn't, and always wished I could.
Me too. I think that's the reason why. I don't know how much you guys know about skateboarding.
Not a lot.
Yeah, no. Exactly. But you know who Tony Hawk is.
Exactly.
There we go. You guys say more. Well, I will, because it'll be a bit of a short podcast. But please say more. But so basically, there's a good documentary. I can't remember what it's called, but he effectively changed from surfing to skateboarding as it was becoming popular, and just completely changed the sport. He single-handedly made it popular through sports magazines. Skateboarding is now an Olympic sport, no doubt, in thanks to the popularization he made it. He's one of the first sports stars to kind of attach himself to a video game franchise as well. Sold hundreds of millions of copies of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and they continue to sell today on new platforms, PC, wherever you kind of game. Again, transformed the sport, invented tons of moves. So you kind of think of the, I don't know, was it the frisbee flop? The guy who...
Oh, the Flosby flop.
Frosby flop.
Yeah.
The frisbee flop. There you go. I've got my clip for the promo already.
Get someone to throw. Get someone to throw him.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a bit cheating when you think of the high jump. Yeah. The Frosby. I can't remember his name. I can just think of frisbee.
I think it's a Frosby flop.
Frosby or Flosby?
Flosby. Okay.
Anyway, really getting now.
So that move is named after him, kind of thing. Yeah. And Tony Hawk has thousands of skateboarding moves dedicated to him as well. He's still doing it now at the age of 54 as well. And every professional skateboarder there is now, every Olympian that's done it, everyone who's ever picked up a skateboard is in debt to that man.
Yeah. I mean, that, like you say, that is the definition of an icon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good one to
show all my answers up.
Yeah, it's a good one to start. Well, the thing is, I mean, has it always been classed as a sport?
It's a good question.
Skateboarding?
Is surfing a sport?
Yeah. I mean, I don't doubt that it's a sport. Obviously, it is a sport.
Yeah, that's why it's...
I don't think it was classed as a sport, was it? But...
Yeah, but he's made it a sport.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's because of him that it is a sport. So... I mean, really, we should all just pack up and go and say that's probably the definitive icon.
Yeah, it's number 10 as well.
And he's number 10. So, buckle in, ladies and gentlemen, because if that's Ollie's number 10, imagine who's number 1. God. Go on then, Neil, you're number 10.
So a while ago when I was a bit younger, I really got into boxing, as in to watch boxing, loved it, really enjoyed it. Not so much now, not so interested. But back then it was Mike Tyson for me. I was fascinated with the guy, the way he fought. He was an animal, absolute animal.
He's my number 6, by the way.
Oh, is he?
I think I've got him as well. Number 8.
Number 8.
But yeah, I just think the man was a machine, wasn't he? He was. I mean, yes, he had his troubles and his ups and downs, but for the game of boxing, he was a true hard hitter and could take a hit as well, which is unusual nowadays with some of the boxers. But yeah, to me, he was the top of his game. I remember watching the Bruno fight, staying up all night. Well, not watching it. We listened to it because we couldn't afford to watch it on Sky. Well, none of us had Sky. We couldn't afford to have Sky. So we listened to it on the Radio 5. And yeah, what a mean machine he was. And to me, he's still a legendary heavyweight champion, to me.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people would doubt it because of, like I say, his troubles and the other things that he's gone through. But, you know, you need to disassociate that with what he achieved when he was boxing.
Mm. I think for me, he was there was no nonsense. There was no frills with Mike Tyson.
No, he had a job to do. He was in.
Yeah, there was a lot of boxers around that time. You had the Holyfields and you had the Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler, but it was all the glitz. It was all the Don King glitz and everything. So it was all showboating and stuff. He came in and he seemed he was just ready for work. It was just black trunks, black boots. There was no writing on it or anything. Get in there, get the job done as quickly as possible. If it's one punch, it's one punch. Get in, get out, and that's it. And that when I said about on the intro about the sliver of the devil, there's a lot of people. There's a few people in my top 10 that have all got that little sliver of wrongness that I think is what makes them sets them a little bit apart. I'm not condoning anything that he may have done and he's done time for or whatever. That to me is completely separate. Not saying that it's right or wrong. It is wrong. But it's separate to what the sportsman and what he did
and what he achieved.
I would say that maybe it wasn't the fact that he could take a punch. I think it was the fact that nobody had the chance to punch him.
Yeah.
Let alone the fact that he would, because I think a couple of times when he got hit, he went down. But it was the fact that nobody could get near him because he was just, and the power in the legs. He was always squatting and he was you said a machine, but he was
a machine.
Yes, it was something that had never been seen. I don't think it's been seen since.
Not really.
Absolutely not. I think his knockout ratio was insane. So I believe his first 32 fights were all knockouts.
Yeah.
In the first 2 rounds. Unheard of before, or probably since then as well. As you said, he was just got the job done. And from a technical aspect as well, he had quite a short reach for a heavyweight.
Yeah.
So he'd get in and use it, as you said, use his legs. His power came all the way through his body. It wasn't just his upper body, all the way through. And he was an absolute nightmare to deal with. And his legacy can be summed up in the amount of film cameos he's had and how he's still talked about in pop culture. You mentioned Sugar Ray Leonard, and he's mentioned every now and again. Even the greats, Bruno, Lennox Lewis of that era as well. They're not talked about nowhere near as much. If you see someone get hit in the street on a night out, you're going, "Oh, Tyson would be proud of that." You know, he is the reference everyone goes to.
Yeah.
And that's a testament to him in the way he was. Yeah, I don't condone anything he's done. I was reading even as recently as last month, someone was hassling him on a plane and he punched them. So it's this,
But there is footage of the guy that was hassling him, and the guy hassling him was a dick.
Oh yeah,
a dick.
The fact that somebody thinks I'm just going to hassle Mike Tyson. I mean, who thinks to do that for a start? Because I know that he got himself really out of shape, didn't he? And then all of a sudden he got himself back in shape because he was going to. I think he fought again, didn't he?
I think he still is, isn't he?
It was Joe Joyce in like an exhibition match.
Yeah. But he got himself. He was absolutely shredded. He got himself in such good shape. Now he just smokes weed, does a podcast, and talks to Joe Rogan a lot.
I thought he was making a comeback. I'm sure I read he was doing it again.
No, I mean, I don't think he's not to the shape that he was when he did that exhibition fight. I mean, I was watching a movie on one of the sort of Bruce Willis Just for the Money movies, and he crops up in that. He was in that acting away in a serious role and stuff. But again, like I say, you can't condone him for things like the biting Evander Holyfield's ear and that kind of stuff. That is when I think he realized that he wasn't the force that he was anymore. But those years where he was at the top of his game, nobody could touch him.
No.
You know, and I can remember people laughing at the time saying, oh, well, I'd take 100 grand for 10 seconds in the ring with Mike Tyson because that's all it would last. You wouldn't though, would you? You wouldn't want to be hit by him.
No.
Because he just looked angry all the time. Anyway.
Well, you probably wouldn't be able to spend the 100 grand would be spent on care, wouldn't it?
Exactly. Of course it would. Of course,
particularly in America, and the rest,
Indeed. Right, my number 10. I changed this one today actually because I completely forgot, and this is going back to what Neil said in regards to sportsmen that in my youth were people that I absolutely rooted for, and it was John Lowe, the darts player. Yeah, Ollie's looking. You got no idea, have you?
No, I do know who he is. He looks like a bit like Droopy the dog, right?
Yes, he does. Yeah. Exactly. And the one thing about him is that when he threw his darts, he never blinked.
Yeah, that's right.
He never blinked when he threw his darts. He was one of those guys. He had like running feuds with Jockey Wilson, and Eric Bristow, and I can always remember that. I think he won the world title maybe twice when I used to watch him. But he was like in the final with Bristow 2 or 3 times and lost. And it was one of those things that you always wanted him to win against the big people. But he was methodical. Again, talk about a machine. He was methodical. He seemed to me like he was like the nice guy of darts, where everybody, like Jockey Wilson had a bit of a temper to him. Eric Bristow was just the crafty cockney, but he always seemed to be very arrogant about it, especially with the way that he threw the darts. Look at the video playlist. Patreon people, when we do, I'll put some clips of Eric Bristow in there as well. And it's same as like with Steve Davis. Steve Davis used to get everyone's back up because how he acted. Same with Eric Bristow in darts. People used to get so pissed off with him because of the flamboyant way he threw the darts. John Lowe was just like straight. And I can always remember playing darts. I used to try and it's the same with a few of the other people in my top 10. I used to hold my darts the same way. I could never do the non-blinking thing. I could never do that. But I try and hold my darts the same way. And yeah, an absolute legend. And
how did that work out for you, Pa?
Well, I now work in a picture framers. Yeah, so it worked out really well.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, was John Lowe kind of known as like Captain Consistent? Because I watched a documentary on Jockey Wilson and he did pop up a lot. He was just, as you said, quite methodical.
I mean, probably
very unsexy. Well,
he wasn't, like I say, he wasn't flamboyant. He didn't really. I don't think he actually had like a nickname. You know, where they all sort of have a nickname these days, don't they?
Yeah, for sure.
And I didn't really. I thought he died. You know, no disrespect to you, John, if you happen to be listening. But he's still alive, and I think he still like does the classic circuit and exhibition stuff and that. So fair play to him. But
did he cross over? Because obviously there was a period in time where darts was purchased by Sky and Eddie Hearn and that ilk. Did he cross over from the ITV every other Sunday to the actual commercial sports side?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Did he turn pro properly?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I can remember him from the time when it was the Embassy World Championships, and it was where was it?
Sheffield, is it?
I think that was the snooker, wasn't it, in Sheffield? I think it wasn't the Lakeside; it was somewhere like that. But it was always the same place every year. But then it split off into the BDO and the PDC, or there was different factions like the boxing. There was all of a sudden you had the one that all the famous people were at, and then all the ones that weren't good enough to get into the famous one that did their own world champ. And again, no disrespect if you're happening to be listening to the darts people. But
maybe it's time they properly bought Bullseye back then with the new
maybe
there's been talks from what I've heard.
Oh really?
Yeah, I don't think it works unless it's
unless you're giving away a caravan or a speedboat that's going to end up in a council estate. It's what are the prizes going to be? There's not rubbish with the internet in the palm of your hand now. There's no rubbish prizes.
Exactly.
A VCR.
VCR. But that's it. They're not going to get away with doing a stack system or a set of china plates or stuff. This is not going to work now, is it?
Makes me sad that they wouldn't at least try.
Yeah.
Well, they did, didn't they? They did try with that Dave Spikey.
I never watched it.
Yeah, they did. They did. I mean, Tony Green was still in there as well, but it was Dave Spikey who does Phoenix Nights and stuff, and it just wasn't the same. It just wasn't the same at all. And I think it still had the shit prizes and stuff.
And did it still have Bully walking across the bottom
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
screen?
Bully was still there. It was almost like that. Those bits were the bits that were funny because they were laughing at those bits and the fact that it was shit prizes and it was terrible TV, but it was of its time, I think.
Yeah.
I'll put a clip of Bullseye in the video
Absolutely.
playlist as well, just to let all you kids see what we used to do on a Sunday, because you can't beat a bit of Bully on a Sunday.
No.
Oh, can't beat it. Yeah, that's always used to look like it come and kissed Jim Bowen on the face, didn't it?
It did.
Yeah. Right then, Ollie, you're number 9, please.
My number 9 is Tiger Woods.
My number 5.
No, Neil.
Okay.
No.
Oh, I was expecting you to look like you're going to say something.
No,
Yeah,
I
fair-
sort of put he's on my other list. It was one of the guys, but I just, if it's any consolation, I admire everything that he's done, and he's a world class in his sport. But it's a sport I really find hard to watch.
Really? Interestingly, I don't like watching either,
Mm.
but I do like playing it every now and then.
Right.
But I think again, it's going back to my youth age thing. Again, one of the first sports stars in my memory to have a video game kind of attached just to his name, and everything Jack Nicklaus had done, who obviously is some see as the GOAT of golf. Tiger Woods seemed to have matched it by the age he was 21.
Mm.
Yeah.
At the age of 21, he was world number one, and world number one for quite a while. And I think he introduced golf to not only a younger audience, in which I think more younger people are playing it. Obviously, a lot of footballers play it now as well. He introduced it to a more kind of diverse audience as well. People who are kind of maybe more working class. It's seen as quite an elitist sport. I think, he was kind of there for the other fans, if that makes sense. You kind of had the Route 1 kind of golf elites, and then you had the kind of people who casually watch it and go, this youngster is really, really good. And he was kind of a bit of an upset as well. I don't think he was particularly liked at the start. There's a lot of issues with his dad, I think, kind of pushing him into it and stuff. And but to come out on top, obviously, a lot of stuff in his personal life more recently has just gone downhill. But to be, the only black guy on the circuit at the time and absolutely smashing people to pieces, a bit like Lewis Hamilton's been doing in the F1 more recently. He represents just millions and millions of other people who may not have even thought about golf before, and for that, icon status is achieved in my mind, and that's coming from someone who doesn't particularly watch the sport, but I do recognise kind of he's turned a lot of heads and continues to do so, and he was the youngest golfer to achieve 3 career Grand Slams. He's won 15 majors, and I think he's got the record for most PGA events won as well, and he's still going.
Yeah.
It's very rare that I'll side with somebody that wins everything, because they can tend to get a bit boring, that you think, oh God, they've won again and they've won again. But Tiger Woods is one of those people that I want him to win every time I see him play. And I do enjoy watching golf. I think if in a perfect world someone could say, right, you can be a professional at any sport, I think golf would be the sport that I would choose. Yeah, there is just something about, it's going to sound weird, the fashion. The
fashion.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. The fact that, and I just love. I don't know. There's something about the sport that I just think is.
Do you like rules?
I do. I love just being ruled by everything. He
loves checkered trousers.
I do. I love looking like Rupert the Bear. I love all that kind of stuff.
Like having a servant carry around your sticks.
Exactly. I mean, who wouldn't want their servant carrying around their sticks? I do. I just love the fact that he has created some sporting images and sporting moments. That one putt that just was one of those putts that you couldn't animate it any better, where it was started up on the bank and then literally did like a right angle and came back to the hole, and the ball stopped for a minute on the lip of the hole and then dropped in. Just those kind of moments, and just shots that other people, say a bit like Ballesteros, but shots that other people wouldn't even think about, let alone even try. He's obviously had his demons, and obviously had his injuries. But yeah, I just think he's a fantastic player. a true icon. I mean, Jack Nicholson. I knew I was going to say that. Jack Nicklaus is another one of the icons, but I think Tiger Woods, like you said, Ollie, took the sport into different directions and opened it up for way more people, and made it of a less elite. I mean, it's still an elite sport. You still have
It's expensive as well.
Yeah,
Some
you
of the clubs
still
I've
have
got.
to be rich, even just to have it as a hobby. You know, it's expensive. So, you know, that's my take on it. So, Neil, your number 9 then, please.
It's a snooker one. It's Ronnie OSullivan to me. He's a guy that I do still enjoy watching snooker, and people do lambast me for that because they say how dull is that, but each to their own, as I say with golf. I just find him mesmerizing to watch when he's on a good day. You know, obviously he has his downtime when he's not so, his mind's not on the game, he's not as good. When he's on fire, the man is mesmerizing to watch. He takes you back to the bygone eras of your Higgins, you know, your Jimmy Whites and things like that. He's not hanging around. You know, he's no Terry Griffiths where it takes a month just to take a shot. You know, it makes the sport fun, and to me it does, and it, you know, completely interesting. But he's also, when you speak to younger people who got a semi-interest, he's engaging those in snooker now. He really is, and I really like the guy. I really like the guy, and you know, he's been doing it longer than I thought. You know, he had when I looked into it. I mean, what is it? A good sort of nearly 30 years now he's been on the circuit, isn't it?
Something like
20,
that.
20
Crazy.
It's getting close to it, I think.
Yeah, and you know, and he doesn't show any sign of letting up. You know, he won another one this season. I just think the guy's a rocket, isn't it? Rocket OSullivan. He really is.
Yeah. What I do like about him though is the fact that if a game isn't going his way, or if his career isn't going his way, he'll just say, stuff it, I've had enough. And we'll just walk away. Yeah. You know, I love that moment when I think he was on for a 147 and he asked how much you get for a 147, and it was something like 20 grand. And he went, no. So he did a 146 instead.
That's it.
Because he thought, it's not worth it. It's not worth me getting a 147. But that 147 he did in like less than 5 minutes is mesmerizing. I'll put that on the video playlist.
Yeah, that is
mesmerizing. It won't take long to watch it at all.
Yeah, he's a great character as well, isn't he? I think sport, what we've really spoken about, sport needs characters.
Yeah.
Again, they're not only good, but they've got something about them. Maybe it's just natural, God-given talent. Maybe it's an attitude. Maybe it's a point to prove people wrong. But a bit like Gascoigne kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, again, he didn't really win much. No. But he's still spoken about now, and I think Ronnie OSullivan's the same for snooker.
But I also like his honesty in his interviews. You know, when he's saying when he's struggling with his mental health or whatever he is, he's open about it, and which is engaging to other people that have these issues themselves. And like Pav said, the fact that he will just walk away from something and just no, I can't do it at the moment is honesty. You know, you wouldn't want to see him go in and just get, you know, knocked straight out in the first round. Yeah, I've got a lot of time and respect for him, and I do try and watch as many of his matches as I personally can. Yeah,
he's probably the only reason I bother to watch snooker as well, so that speaks volumes. There was an interview where someone asked him, so what advice would you give to a young person looking to take up snooker, and he just went, don't, it's quite boring. I found that quite funny. He's got a sense of humour.
He's got a great sense of humour.
A documentary series where he went around America with some Sky Sports presenter.
That's right.
He started playing pool with people. And he absolutely battered them.
Yeah.
They're like, where has this guy come from? They obviously had no idea who he was. Yeah. And he just took the piss.
Yeah.
And I love that kind of, you know, representing England and Britain. And he just absolutely smashed them.
I think it was in that series where he tried VR.
The VR, yeah.
That's it,
and then went to go and rest on the table and then fell on his ass. But I think you're absolutely right, Ollie, in regards to, I think if there's one sport that has suffered from losing their characters, it's snooker.
Oh, yeah.
In the 70s and 80s, maybe at the start of the 90s, it was full of characters, you know, whereas now, I mean, I know the names of a few other snooker players. I used to watch snooker all the time. But now, Ronnie OSullivan, if I see him playing, I'll watch it. If anybody else, I don't really care because I don't know who they are. And there's no disrespect to them. They're obviously fantastic sportsmen, as in that they're great snooker players. But I ain't got a clue who Judd Trump is compared to, I can't even name another one.
They're all very vanilla now, aren't they? Like you haven't got the rivalries of Davis and Taylor.
Exactly.
And, Higgins and White, and again characters, because those Higgins especially and Jimmy White had demons, as you said, kind of but for such a mundane, quite posh sport, and they're like alcoholics or coke addicts. What for this weird sport? You know what I mean? It'd be like a table tennis player addicted to heroin or something. It just wouldn't make sense. But it kind of glamorized it to a certain extent, particularly back then. And Ronnie OSullivan is very much holding the candle to that now, if no one else is. Who's the Welsh guy? Is it Mark Williams?
Mark Williams, yeah. I mean, he's old school. I think they're the class of '92, because I think him, Mark Williams, and
Higgins. Some other guy. I don't know.
It was
John Higgins.
John Higgins. Yeah,
they were the three that all started in the same year, and they're the ones that are still going. Yeah.
Didn't Mark Williams do a press conference naked because he was like 100 to 1 to win the championship? It was a few years ago. I'm pretty sure he did.
Something like that. Yeah.
Put that clip in, patrons.
You're in for a treat.
In the wank bank.
Yeah. Well, whatever floats your boat, I suppose. Yeah. Okay. My number 9. Now I don't know all of his stats. But I admire him just for his single-minded vision and just how he operates. It's Tom Brady, the quarterback for, I think it's the, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think it was now, but he did most of his damage for the New England Patriots. I mean, it's a guy that, he's got a supermodel wife. He's got this regiment of what he does, what he eats, what he drinks, drilled down to, I think it's basically just water that runs off of a flower is what he's allowed to drink for the day, and seeds and poppy seeds and God knows what, just to keep himself physically fit. But the things that he's done in regards to the amount of Super Bowls that he's won, arguably he's the greatest quarterback of all time. I remember watching the Super Bowl. I can't remember what year it was, but it was against the Seattle Seahawks when the Seahawks ended up fucking up at the end. Yeah. And Tom Brady never thought they were going to get a chance, and it should have gone as a running back, but it wasn't. I'm not going to get into the weeds of it because even I get confused how American football runs sometimes. But he is one of those guys that you just have to look at and you think, with all of the famous people that have gone before you, Joe Montana and all that sort of Dan Marino, the people I remember from the 80s, he's the guy that I think is going to be very hard to beat in regards to how many Super Bowl rings he's won. And even the first year going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after saying he was going to quit, and then winning the Super Bowl on his first year of doing that, and then saying he's going to quit, and now he's come back again for another year, maybe his last year. I think it's incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Absolutely. The only thing I would say, I mean, I occasionally watch NFL. I went to San Diego to watch the Chargers when they were there. I think they've moved now since. The only thing I would say, top 10 sport and icons. Is NFL a top 10 sport? Because it's only really played in one country.
Yeah, that is true.
Could say the same of darts and maybe skateboarding, arguably, but
yeah.
I have to stay quiet. I know nothing about the NFL.
I love watching NFL. I do. I went to one game. I went to see my team, which is the Raiders, who used to be the LA Raiders, then the Oakland Raiders. Now they're the Las Vegas Raiders, I think, and they were over at Wembley Stadium years ago, back in the late 80s, 90s, I think it was. And it's just a spectacle to go and see a game, properly seeing them all smash into each other. But I will often book a Monday off after the Super Bowl and stay up and watch the Super Bowl, no matter who it is, and just sort of get into the whole thing of it. But it's a good point. It is a good point.
I am going to completely contradict myself in about 10 minutes time. So
yeah, I think I am a couple more times in my top 10. But okay, so that was my number 9. Ollie, you said Mike Tyson for number 8.
I did.
So Neil, what is your number 8?
So I was looking up my list and I thought it was very male centric. I thought I've got no ladies in here. And what sport did I admire and watch with a lady in? And it was tennis, and it was Steffi Graf, to be honest. Okay. I thought she was a phenomenal tennis player. She was the true heroine of tennis before the Williams sisters hit the scene. the way she destroyed people, she was ruthless on the tennis court, but calm at the same time. A joy to watch. And she won. I mean, I don't know the stats. I should have looked it up or exactly what she won, but she was the top of her game for many years. And she was just a beast on that tennis court and a pleasure to watch. Yeah. So there we go. I thought we'd get a lady in there. Somebody I watched from years ago. So are you having a quick look to see what she had won there?
No, I was just looking at porn.
Steffi Graf porn.
Steffi Graf porn.
That's a niche subculture.
You'd be surprised how many videos there are.
I'll
put them on the video playlist.
The famous photo of the the tennis, the poster of the
the Athena,
Athena
poster lifting the tennis skirt showing the arms.
Was that Steffi Graf? Was it?
You can Photoshop her head onto it.
I mean, you could. Yeah. I mean, it looked like The Exorcist if you see her head, because that means her head is swapped round.
And of course, she went on to marry Andre Agassi.
Andre Agassi, yeah.
Did she?
Yeah, I mean, he was with Brooke Shields and left her for Steffi Graf, didn't he? Wow.
Goodness me.
Great.
She was always the one that I always forget. I always forget.
Not in a sexual way. Yeah.
No. I always forget Steffi Graf and Monica Seles. Remember Monica Seles?
Yeah, well, was famous for a stab in the back, wasn't
but
it?
she was like the top woman at that particular time.
She did, didn't she? I mean, if you think about the 90s, I mean, Steffi Graf pretty much was there the whole way through, winning at least Wimbledon pretty much every year.
Yeah.
She was a beast at what she did.
Oh, look at you, Neil, being all woke with putting a lady in there.
Well, no, because
I sounded very condescending.
Yeah,
I didn't mean that at all.
But I thought, looking at my list, surely there's got to be somebody that growing up I really admired and would make time to watch play.
Yeah, and I thought you was going to say Serena Williams, to be perfectly honest, because she's another one that's like a beast. She can.
Well, she is, and I do dip in and out of watching the Williams sisters and things like that, but. You know, I was an avid watcher in the 90s, especially when Wimbledon came around. I used to really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Really enjoy it.
Yeah. Okay. My number 8. I mean, he's big in all ways. It's Shaquille O'Neal.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Giant Haystacks.
No. He's my number 4. No, I'm only joking. I love watching. There's clips. He does the like the pre and halftime and after show on. I think it's NBA Tonight or whatever it is with Charles Barkley and stuff. Some of the stuff they get up to is fantastic. It's very reminiscent of like the Soccer Saturday
classic
thing. But there are so many. Go on YouTube and put some of their funny bits. For that, he's a sporting icon. But the fact that he is, I don't know. Can you say that he's a bit of a freak? I mean, but not in a nasty way. I mean, he's 7 foot something. He is an absolute monster. But when you watch some of his videos of him in full flow, an unbelievable force that could never be stopped. And just as somebody that is, and not just on the court, but somebody that seems to me to be just an amazing human being, like a very generous, giving human being off the court as well. He could very easily be, I am an icon, so, kiss my feet whenever you see me. He doesn't seem like that at all. The amount of times there's videos of him helping people buying stuff in a supermarket or, just stupid things like that. And I'm sure he's got, he's a multi, probably nearly a billionaire. But I find him just an absolute delight. And one of those sort of people that, if you met them, there's no way that you could make their day any better. But he would make your day so much better by just him saying, hi, how you doing, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But for me, it's more...
Go on, sorry, Pat.
I'll just say, for me, it's more than just what he did on the court. It's the stuff that after he finished playing that makes him a sporting icon for me.
It's philanthropy.
Yeah.
And he's bloody funny.
Oh, he's so funny.
Funny, isn't he? He's so some funny. Of the videos. I highly recommend the hot chip challenge that he does. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one that he did on that was the NBA.
That's right. Yeah.
Show. Yeah.
I think as well, he's got a cool name.
Yeah.
That helps, isn't it?
Shaq.
You remember it. Shaq, Big Shaq.
That's it.
And he was part of that school of 90s NBA superstars as well. Might be a few others coming up in a minute.
Might be.
who got those mega contracts, which they started delivering in the early 90s with the sponsorships coming on board. It's the same in tennis and other sports. Really did catapult these sports to another level, getting multi-million-pound deals to wear Nike shoes or whatever it may have been. And basketball, still to this day, is that kind of sport that wear this headband or whatever else, get so many millions. It kind of started that in the 90s.
Yeah,
all the way up to modern day. And it was a golden period of basketball from like the early 90s to the late 2000s, where I watched it a lot. My teams are San Antonio Spurs. They won a couple of titles in the mid-noughties as well. And yeah, it was very, you were looking out, but you're watching it for the superstars like Shaquille O'Neal, Manu Ginobili, Tony Duncan, and yeah, he was definitely one to watch.
And then when you watch the Olympics and they had the dream team, it was like the Avengers of basketball. Yeah. It was like, you wouldn't know. I mean, the only people at that time that I knew basketball was Curly from Harlem Globetrotters. They were the only people that I knew. But then all of a sudden, these people that you recognized and like you knew the names, Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal. You think, oh my God. And the documentary, there was a documentary about him. I can't remember when it was out now, but it showed you obviously all of the amazing, extravagant things that he's got, and he's got like loads of children. But like I said before, the stuff that you don't see that he does, that makes him just as much of an icon as whatever he did shooting hoops. So, okay, that's my number 8. Ollie, your number 7, please.
My number 7 is Michael Schumacher.
Oh, okay.
Again, similar to Neil, going back to my youth now. So me and my dad properly bonded over F1 or motorsport. We used to watch WRC Rally as well. Big fan of Colin McRae. Was lucky enough to meet him before he tragically passed away as well, a long time ago. But Michael Schumacher is probably the most dominant sports star of all time. He did not lose. If you're watching the F1 and he was involved, particularly with Ferrari, he was going to win that race. Again, synonymous with the sport. If you see someone going quick down the M25, who do you think he is? Michael Schumacher.
Yeah, that's
again,
right.
Pop culture references galore. And also he was attached to a brand that possibly the coolest, sexiest cars known to man are Ferraris. He's attached to that brand for life. And although he did race with Benetton and can't remember someone else. He was unforgiving as well. He was a bit of a track bully. He was just annoyingly good as well, even if there's a British driver before Hamilton, Jenson Button, or Damon Hill, or someone of that, Nigel Mansell, or someone like Elk. I don't know. It might be a bit bad to say this, but Schumacher was you wanted him. You either wanted him to dominate or to lose dramatically. There was no middle ground. He wasn't just having a bad day.
Yeah.
He was either all guns blazing or nothing at all. He still got the record for most wins of 91. I think he pioneered fitness for F1 as well, I remember reading. He kind of, Lewis Hamilton and the guys around today are on strict diets. They're doing fitness tests before the big races and stuff. And I think he kind of really pioneered that. He fine-tuned his body to be one-on-one with the car. And I was lucky enough to sit in his 2004 winning Ferrari as well.
Wow.
So I've been in a Ferrari, and it was Michael Schumacher's.
Well, that's not bad. That's not bad. Oh, hell, Mr. Fancy Pants.
I know. There we go.
Very good. Neil, have you sat in any Formula One cars?
No, and I don't think I ought to, because getting me out would probably
I was going to say, I'd be like getting John Prescott out of that car at one time. I'd be like that, I think.
No, I've never been in a Formula One car, alas.
Never mind. There's still time, mate, eh?
Maybe.
Go on then, you're number 7.
Yes, so this was an introduction by my dad to a footballer. This is the footballer I nearly forgot on my list to tell. It's Pele. So I ended up with a poster of him on my wall. The achievements, as I said in the facts before, I mean, if you go through it, he's scored a total of 1,283 first-class goals, including 77 for Brazil.
It's my number 2, is it, Ollie?
It's my number 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, it was before... I even remember being introduced to him before I was even a proper allegiance to Tottenham or whatever team. I hadn't chosen a team at that time. Like I said, I had the poster on my wall. He's an icon, erectile dysfunction. Let's all not remember that. You know, he brought that to the masses. No,
It's Steffi Graf porn.
I jest. But if anybody was to say the most famous footballer ever, I would say probably the majority of everybody would say Pele. And, you know, being that he probably is the most iconic footballer still to this date to me.
Ollie?
Absolutely. I think you've pretty much summed it up as best as anyone can, really. Because he's got it's that cool name as well, Pele. It's like Cher, Madonna, Rihanna. Shaq. Yeah, you're quite right. He is still the only player to win 3 World Cups. And, you know, he's been retired for 50 years or something. He also brought football to America. He was the first mega superstar to play for the New York Cosmos.
That's right.
Who has since disbanded. So they had George Best, Franz Beckenbauer, and Pele all in the same team in the mid-70s as well. He just is the biggest icon. He's, as you said, scored all these goals in these different games as well. And he gets a bit of criticism because they say, well, he played in friendlies and all this stuff. And there's a big kind of debate going on now with whether it's him or Cristiano Ronaldo who scored the most goals. But what in the Brazilian league they've done, because that Santos side he played for was so successful, they toured the world. They took a year out of the season, toured the world and played the best teams in every single country, which I'd say is harder than a normally friendly against Accrington Stanley or whoever it is. So to score that as well, sensational stuff. He's recognised by FIFA as the greatest player of all time of the 21st century as well. Just encapsulates sport. One of the few people you can be, I don't know, in a village in Timbuktu, and there's a good chance they might have heard of Pele. And a lot of his games as well weren't televised. You'd only see them at the World Cup. That was the only thing that would have been on the free channels there were back then. So you kind of, your imagination when the World Cups weren't on, I wasn't alive back then, but I imagine he kind of sparked the imagination in young aspiring footballers as well by watching that 70s Brazil side, which again is a massive pop culture reference. It's referenced in films, in everyday life. Who do you think you are? 70s Brazil. It could be a Sunday league. It could be a pub team. And again, in the FIFA video games, which are the most popular video games on the planet, they've made Pele an icon card. You can play as Pele. So even younger generations know who he is as well. And he was ridiculously good. And most of his footage isn't there. So it's testament, really.
I've got a feeling in my head, right? I've got a vision in my head that it's the same bloke that is going, who do you think you are? Pele? Go, he drives like Michael Schumacher. Go, he drives like Mike Tyson. It's the same bloke saying all those things. Right, okay. My number 7, I'm sure it's in someone else's top 10, is Michael Jordan. So you guys got him?
Number 4.
You're number 4. Okay. The documentary, the Last Dance documentary, I found absolutely fascinating because I obviously knew about Michael Jordan, and I think he's one of those people, like you said earlier on, Ollie, that he's synonymous. Think basketball, you think Michael Jordan. That's just the first person that you think of. But you don't, especially in this country, I don't think you know unless you do a deep dive on YouTube exactly what it is he's done, what he's accomplished, how he did it. You watch that documentary, and I know it's probably a little bit biased towards Michael Jordan, but the fact that he did all that he did, stepped away, and then came back and did it again. And again, with that single-minded vision that all he ever wanted was to be the best and for everybody in his team to raise their level so that they could compete with him. And then the opposition just had to deal with whatever it was. And if his teammates couldn't do it, then he was just going to go and do it himself. You know, he didn't care. He didn't care if he pissed off his teammates. If they're not going to be up to his level, he is then going to go out and he's going to just win the game by himself. And again, I'll put it on the video playlist. Go and watch some of his best moments. They're spine tingling, some of the things that he does. And I'm sure there's a lot of people now that base their game on how Michael Jordan played basketball. I think he's just an amazing person. So that's my number 7. Ollie?
Yeah, my number 4. He made the Chicago Bulls a famous brand, a famous team, a bit like how Alex Ferguson changed Manchester United and made that a global brand, made it a multi-billion-pound empire. It's the same with the Chicago Bulls, who are still selling Jordan shirts in their club shop, even though he's been retired 20 years.
Yeah.
He changed the physics of the sport as well. He was doing things that no one else could dream of doing. Again, a bit like other people we've mentioned, the branding aspect as well with the Air Jordans, still the most sought after trainers in America. At one point, it was the most stolen item in America. And original pairs still sell for over $10,000, even though they're 40 years old. Space Jam, one of my favorite films of all time, came out in 1996. Again, Charles Barkley and the like are in there as well. But
that's right.
He was actually pretty good in it. I know, like, sporting actors don't go well. Arnold Schwarzenegger in the certain films.
Shaquille O'Neal.
Or Shaquille O'Neal or LeBron James in the more recent Space Jam. Don't watch it. Spoiler alert. But he's voted the number 1 greatest player in the Hall of Fame. He's the 10-time leading scorer in the NBA as well, at a time when it was thriving in the 90s for the likes of Shaquille O'Neal and everybody else as well. I didn't know this as well. I took note. They retired the number 23, I think it was, at Chicago Bulls. They also retired it at the Washington Wizards as well, a club he didn't even play for. So another team has retired the shirt because of how much respect they have on that name. It's up there with Real Madrid fans clapping Ronaldinho when he was playing Barcelona because of the, it's your biggest rivals are retiring shirts on behalf of you because no one has dominated the court quite like that man did.
Yeah, because he went off and played a season or two of baseball as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he played in the second division of the MLB, and then came back, which is, funnily enough, a scene they replay in Space Jam.
Oh, right.
And then which comes back and wins another 2 titles with the Chicago Bulls, which is incredible, really.
Yeah. I would recommend The Last Dance. Even if you're not a basketball fan, I would recommend The Last Dance just because it feels like everybody knows who Michael Jordan is, but it fills out his story, some of the devastating things that happened, like in his family life as well. It's a fascinating watch. It really is. Okay, so that was what was that? That was my number 7. So Ollie, your number 6 then, please.
Going back to tennis, and my first and only female entry is Serena Williams, who we kind of alluded to earlier. It's my number 6. Probably one of the most successful sporting women of all time, I'm going to say, along with Venus Williams, I guess. Changed the face of tennis, not just for women, but for all sports. I think she was probably one of the first, particularly in my memory, in my mind, that you weren't always watching the men's final, or the men's final wasn't. If she made the final, that would just get as high of viewing numbers as the men's final as well. So I think for that as well, she deserves some tremendous praise. She also fought to get equal pay for winning the different tournaments as well successfully. I think she was 15 when she signed like a $11 million deal with Adidas, I think it was, at 15, which is quite incredible. But again, just dominates. 855 career wins, 73 career titles, and 23 career titles in the doubles as well. And when she was 16, she was beating players in the top 10. So the likes of Steffi Graf but when she was 16, it's just incredible. And she's still going now at the age of 40, post having children. I mean, I'm not a woman. I don't plan on getting pregnant. But I know it changes you physically, and to come back from that is incredible. A bit like Jessica Ennis as well. I think she's done the same. And probably the most liked Jehovah's Witness, I'm going to say.
I mean, I didn't even know she was a Jehovah's Witness.
No, I didn't. I'd open the door. Yeah. But just she's not only is it, as I discussed at the start, being an icon of the sport. Not only did she change the sport, but the things she's changed along with it in terms of equal pay, women in sport, drawing more eyes to the female game, doubles, her philanthropy off the court as well. I do recommend watching the film King Richard, which Will Smith coincidentally won an Oscar for.
That's right.
It tells a very good story about how they got there. Thoroughly recommend that. I just think she's immense. She's amazing.
Yeah, good one. Yeah, she's another one that I'd want her to win all the time. You know, you want to see someone like that just completely dominates. And I must admit, I always got a little bit disappointed when her sister would win instead of her.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah,
it's just weird how sort of like you pick a favorite, and that's the sort of one that you sort of you back all the time, or you want just to see be successful. But what a family. Okay, then Neil, you're number 6.
So this is another personal one again. It's motorbike racing, and it's Barry Sheen.
Oh my goodness! Barry Sheen.
See, growing up when we did Pav, he was everywhere. Barry Sheen
was,
along with James Hunt in the motor racing. Barry Sheen was the other side. Now I don't like Pav. I don't know all of the stats of what he won. He won a lot of stuff, but the fact that the man broke every bone in his body and still got on the bike and carried on racing was always a sight to behold. And also, I used to, as a lad, think he was so cool in his leathers that I wanted to learn to ride a motorbike. Never did. I was a bit too frightened to get on it and do it, but it always made me want to be that motorbike racer and have the joys of it. But yeah, if anybody ever speaks about motor racing to me, motorcycle racing now, that's the only person I ever think and conjure up an image of. So to me, he is the icon of that sport.
Is he? He's passed away, isn't he?
Yeah.
Was that due?
I can't remember when.
I think it had crashed, didn't it?
Was it a crash?
I have a feeling he might have done.
Let me quickly have a look on my device.
And didn't he advertise Brute, didn't he?
He did.
It's one of the ones with Henry Cooper and Kevin Keegan, I think, that advertised Brute and stuff. And yeah.
So he died in 2003. I'll find out what for. So
come on, Neil. Come on.
I'm getting there. Oh, it doesn't say.
Who's going to Google it first? Come on.
I'm on there.
Come on, Neil. You can do it.
Oh, it's cancer.
Oh, right.
Alas,
Oh,
alas. Yeah, it was cancer.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was.
But
Was
yeah,
that Steffi Graf?
Oh, my secret's out.
Yeah.
She could serve me anytime.
Oh, nice.
There we go.
Nice.
So
Okay.
I've just got this image, but yeah, Barry Sheen to me was the icon of that sporting world. Probably well before your time, isn't it, Ollie?
But for my time, but synonymous with motorbike racing, because again, in pop culture references, my dad used to say my dad was a proper mod, so he really hated kind of typical kind of big motorbikes and stuff. So he goes, "Oh, here's Barry Sheen again," you know, kind of
right,
thinking he was what's his name from Quadrophenia. But yeah, again, you know, I know the name. It seems I don't really know Valentino Rossi, but I know he's good.
Yeah,
you know, it's got certain people in that sport.
Cole Fogarty as well.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And you just know who these people are, and they know that they're legends. And
yeah,
to get on a bike as well and go hundreds of miles an hour, that is F1's ridiculous, but that's even more ridiculous.
Yeah, and especially back then, they didn't have the safety procedures that they try and follow now. That gives them a little bit more of a chance, I suppose, when they come off. I mean, the fact that you can read it or see it, that he broke every bone in his body and still got on and raced, it just defies.
That must have hurt, though, mustn't it? If you've just broken every bone in your body and you get back on the bike and race.
Yeah.
That must absolutely kill you. Yeah.
Matchsticks to keep him up.
Yeah. Yeah, good one. Good one. I haven't heard the name Barry Sheen for years.
Yeah, take you back to your youth.
It does. It absolutely does. Yeah.
Gonna buy some Brute now.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got plenty as it is. I've got that, and denim. That was the other one. That's way before your time, Ollie. Denim. High karate. Yeah. Okay, my number 6 was Mike Tyson. So back to you, Ollie. Then with your number 5, please.
Controversial one, I think.
Ooh.
Potentially, I've gone for Usain Bolt.
Why is that controversial?
Because track and field, I thought it might have been up there as a kind of sport that wasn't taken seriously.
Oh no! I mean, he was very close to being in my top 10.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
The reason I'm going to justify the sport, if there's people listening who think, first we had darts, then we had motorbike racing, now we've got track and field. To those people, I would say the 100 meters, 200 meters, surely that's the oldest sport in the world. And it's something that, I was going to say everybody, but most people can do. who have legs. Well,
might take longer. Some people might take longer than others, but
okay. Essentially, everyone can run 100 meters, 200 meters. The Olympics are the oldest sporting event in the world. It's kind of gladiatorial, and to become the fastest man on the planet, reaching speeds of 25, 26 miles an hour. Under 10 seconds, I think it was 9.59 seconds was his record, which still stands today. He is the fastest man to have ever lived, not out of the 7 billion people on the planet now, but out of the people who've long gone. He's faster than some animals.
Yeah.
And it's the ultimate sport that anyone can do. Cavemen are probably running, side by side with each other, trying to see who can get to the tree first. You know what I mean?
Prove it, Ollie.
I'm gonna have to carbon date some.
Show me the footage. Yeah.
The cavemen were running away from the dinosaurs. Well, that's what they were doing on the film, I saw.
Yeah, absolutely. And isn't it again? His a bit like Shaquille O'Neal, a cool name, Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
It fits so perfectly. He's got children called Lightning Bolt and Thunderbolt. That's not a joke. That is true.
There you go. I mean,
and it's the oldest sporting event in the world. Still got the world record in 100 meters and 200 meters. I think at the London Olympics when he won gold as well. He ate a box of chicken nuggets before that, so relatable. Yeah. I think he's got 8 gold medals, 23 gold medals in all kind of world events, and he retired at like 32. It's I don't know. I think because most sports involve running as well. When your sport is just running and you're the best at that, that by definition surely makes you the best athlete / sports person in the world.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that I don't think there's any controversy to having Usain Bolt there as a sporting icon at all. I think he's immense in what he does. I also love seeing the video footage of before he starts running when you've got his helper there and he's touching fists and pointing at him and all that, just that little moment that makes these people that are just volunteers like make their day, make their
very self-aware, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
How great he is, but he's not arrogant.
No, not at all. Not at all. I think that's a great one. I do. And he would say he was close to being in my top 10. But John Lowe just pipped him to it.
I'd like to see those two in a race.
Yeah,
I would. But then again, I'd like to see Usain Bolt try and get 180 because he probably can't do that.
Probably could actually.
He's
good at everything. Yeah.
While 6 points deep.
Yeah, exactly. Go on then, Neil. You're number 5.
So another tennis player, and it's Pete Sampras. People seem to have forgotten him nowadays, but we have to remember he won 14 major titles, 7 Wimbledons. He was unbeaten by the time, as in with the records that he held until he retired. Obviously, it's gone now, but he had a video game all to himself on the Mega Drive, Pete Sampras's Tennis, which I was totally addicted to, and he was a joy to watch. I know Pistol Pete. I know he didn't have the greatest charisma on the grass, or on the court, I should say. He was, but he was methodical, wasn't he? He'd take them out one by one, and So Pete Sampras, a long forgotten icon, I think, because he really isn't mentioned very much anymore.
Great shout.
When you watch tennis now, nobody sort of talks about him. They talk about Bjorn Borgs and McEnroes, even Andre Agassi, but they never seem to bring Pete Sampras into the equation, and I don't understand why.
Very worthy top 10, I think.
Yeah, it's like Jim Courier was another one as well that did really well for a few seasons and then just disappeared. It's weird how you get some people like that. David Duval, who was a golfer, seemed to be like red hot for 2 or 3 seasons and then just disappeared. Very, very strange.
But that
is definitely a name that he was there for seasons, wasn't he?
The years and years he was winning, wasn't he? He really was. And and like I say, if you watch Wimbledon now, they don't tend to talk about him at all, which I find amazing because of what he achieved.
So would that have been the Henman era or the Rosetsky era? That's probably
so. It would have been
mid-90s to
mid-90s,
2002, maybe. He was the Michael Schumacher of tennis. He just got the job done. Had one of the fastest serves going as well. So I probably should have said when we were talking about Serena Williams, tennis is my sport. That is the one sport I could confidently beat someone else at. As much as I prefer watching football and playing football, I'm just not that good at it. Tennis, My granddad was very good, so he taught me. He represented Devon and won trophies and things. And he talked about Pete Sampras all the time as nobody can beat this guy. And there was 5 years where he didn't lose a match, I believe. I think he might still have the record for longest consecutive streak, maybe. But he was deadly. He was an assassin.
Pistol Pete, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good one, Neil. Good one. That's 2 names there that I haven't heard for years. Pete Sampras and Barry Sheen.
Oh, we'll have some more coming up.
Oh, good. That's good then. So my number 5 was Tiger Woods. So we've already spoken about him. Ollie, your number 4 was Michael Jordan.
It was.
So Neil, straight back to you with your number 4.
So we're back to snooker again. At the time when I was younger, my dad is a huge snooker fan, got me into it at the time. Like I said, I've lost a little bit of love for it recently. I still dib in and out and watch Ronnie, but it's Alex Higgins.
That's my number 3.
Yeah. The guy, I mean, that's what Ronnie O'Sullivan aspires to be like. I mean, he had his demons, his alcoholism. It didn't help that they were allowed to drink and smoke whilst playing back in the day, but he still managed to just hurricane them in, didn't he? I mean, Hurricane Higgins, he was phenomenal. And we all remember the Mickey takes of the impressionists wandering around the I can't remember who did that.
John Virgo. That was John Virgo that used to.
That's right, yeah. But yeah, what a legend. And he still had it when he came back and did a few exhibition matches. He looked awful, didn't he? I mean, you could really see the ravages of alcohol had taken on him, but he still had the skill, even with the shakes and everything that he was doing it with. But yeah, what an icon for the sport, really, of what he could do and achieved.
He reminds me of what I said about Tiger Woods earlier on, and the fact that there are some people that Tiger Woods would play shots that people wouldn't even think about playing. Alex Higgins did that nearly every frame.
Yeah.
There would be shots that he could see 5 shots down the line, and it would, like I say, it's not even other shots that other players would go, there's no way I'm going to try that. They wouldn't even think about playing these particular shots with the spin or the side spin or whatever. He was a one of a kind. I think they say that you had the whirlwind Jimmy White, and then you obviously had Rocket Ronnie or whatever. Alex Higgins was somebody that he was my snooker. I was massive in the 70s and 80s. Loved snooker. Watched every match that was on the TV. I would be camped in front of the TV every April watching the World Championship from the Crucible. I loved every minute of it. But I just hope and prayed that Alex Higgins won, and that I think it was 1982 was the last time that he won the World Championship. I think he beat Ray Reardon, and then when he won, he wanted his wife and the baby to come on, so he's crying. There's just he is for me one of my, well, obviously he's number 3 in my list as a sporting icon. And if anybody says to me who's your favorite sportsman, he is in my top 3. Just as a sportsman, because he's just everything that I remember as a kid. I love playing snooker. I love watching snooker. He was just the man. He was the absolute man. And he was the complete opposite of someone like Steve Davis, where Steve Davis, was so boring and so mechanical and a great talent, knew what he was doing, obviously won loads. But then Alex Higgins would come in and you wouldn't know what the hell he was doing. He made chuck his cue, down on the table after missing a black and just ruin the whole frame. Just a fantastic and such a sad loss, because the demons got him basically.
They did.
Changed the sport as well, didn't he? He was like an ambassador for it becoming a pub sport to a watchable. He brought in an audience, back when there only were a few channels.
Yeah,
he brought in millions of eyes.
Yeah, and I don't think the sport would be the people that are making money out of it now. Your Ronnie O'Sullivans and people like that. They have Alex Higgins to thank for that. It was a time when you had Bill Werbenick, you had Cliff Thorburn, who that was his thing, that it took him 5 minutes to take a shot. You had Tony Knowles that was shagging everybody while he was playing.
But
you had all
was Terry Griffiths.
And Terry Griffiths. But you had Ray Reardon, who was the Dracula, and all these other people that were the superstars of the game. And that BBC documentary, Gods of Snooker, it's called.
Yeah, I've seen it.
What a fantastic documentary, because you don't realize, like you say, why would a snooker player want to be, taking cocaine and stuff? What the hell are they doing that for? But they were like rock stars. They were like rock stars at the time. It was crazy. So yeah, that's my number 3. So on to your number 3 then, please. Have I done one? No, sorry, I got my number 4. Sorry, my number 4, tennis player. Back in the day, Ollie, I used to play for the county. I mean, it may not look like it. I used to. I can runner up in our local tournament, and I definitely copied this man's style right down to outfit, tennis racket, the way I served. It was Jimmy Connors. Now, he may not have won loads of things, but as a man, as an entertainer, whenever he won a big point, he would be shouting at the sky. He would be pointing at the sky. You'd be going like just over the top all the time, fist pumping, shouting at the crowd. And I genuinely studied his serve and copied it right from the fact that his leading foot, he would like tip up. I did that. I grunted the same way that he did when he served. I think for my birthday one year, I got a full Jimmy Connors like set of whites. I had a Wilson tennis racket, just like Jimmy Connors. He's just one of those players. Like I say, was never. I mean, he was obviously successful, but not the same as your Borgs, your McEnroes, Boris Becker, those kind of people. But for me, he will always be my favorite tennis player. I just absolutely love the bloke. And that's all I got to say about that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think he's a little bit before your time, wasn't he, Ollie?
Yeah, I certainly know about him. It was kind of like mid-80s to late 90s, Jimmy Collins, wasn't it? Yeah, he had kind of Beatles haircut. But
that's right.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, he's definitely up there. I don't know if icon.
That's a personal one.
I know, yeah, it's a personal one.
That's a personal one for me. In fact, if anyone said to me, "Who's your favorite tennis player?" you can forget about anybody that has actually taken over the sport. For me, it'd be Jimmy Connors, because that's just who I looked up to as a tennis player. Yeah, as a tennis player, I copied his style playing the game. God, I wish I had the Beatles haircut now. Wouldn't that be good? Okay, so Ollie, your number 3, please.
My number 3 is the icon's icon, particularly now. I think it's David Beckham.
Okay.
Now, he's not necessarily the best footballer of all time. In fact, he's probably not in the top 50, but certainly the most iconic. He made football interesting to arguably a more feminine audience with his good looks. He had the first kind of massive kind of pop star relationship for a sports star. He was followed everywhere by the press because of antics at the Euros, at the World Cup, the red card, being kicked. He was a national disgrace 1 minute, a national hero a couple years later. I'm a Man United fan, part of the class of 92. He provided 2 of the corners in the famous Champions League game against Bayern Munich in 99, in which we won the treble in the dying seconds of the game when all was but lost. He got effectively 2 assists for those 2 goals. People forget how much of a good player he was, though. He just had a weird technique, which I've not seen replicated since. People have tried it, but he just had this magic way of whipping the ball. I think now he's kind of seen as a bit of a sex symbol, a model, philanthropy, entrepreneur, multi-billionaire. But he was a bloody good footballer too, and part of some great teams. Not only was he part of the Ferguson's greatest ever team, part of the Galacticos at Real Madrid in the noughties, part of that fantastic team. And then much as how Pele moved to America in his later years, the MLS disbanded in the 80s. When it came back, they didn't have a single kind of rock star signing. David Beckham was that first player. And then in more recent years, Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Jermaine Defoe and a few more bigger names have gone over. But he got the ball rolling for the MLS again. So much so he's got his own team now. They're making money. Attendances are going back up. The female game over there is very strong as well. The men's team's frequently making World Cups in the last 20 years as well. He's changed the sport, maybe not definitely in a more commercial way, particularly bringing it to America stateside as well. And just very, very unique. And I think everyone watches the World Cup, particularly sports fans. He's been at some of the most defining moments for England as well. England capped him. one of the sexiest men alive, and he's nearly 50.
You sold us, Ollie. You sold us.
He's again. I think he's a good example. Maybe similar. I never thought I'd say David Beckham similar to Jimmy Connors, but maybe not the best, but certainly iconic.
But for you, see, with our when we were guests on your podcast, and when you came on the first time, I'm a Liverpool fan, so I've not got any time for Manchester United. It's just a simple thing. But I will say that's the one game that I will watch, like the clips of, is that Bayern Munich Champions League final, because I'm fascinated with the fact that it was like the last two kicks of the game, literally, that won you the Champions League. And I've never had a player that I know that I would have hated during the week, and then when there was a midweek England game, was the one going, "Come on, David, come on, you can do that." Greece game that got us to the World Cup, I think it was, wasn't it? Or was it the Euros?
2001, yeah.
And that free kick, I went absolutely fucking mental when he scored that goal, and all the Man United just stuff went away, because that game, I can remember that game, he never stopped running. He ran every inch of that pitch.
His life depended on it, quite literally, because the red tops, the tabloid newspapers were out to get him.
Yeah.
And he saved himself. His career kind of really started as well. Remember, he scored from the halfway line
against Wimbledon.
Against Neil Sullivan in goal.
Yeah,
that turned him from a talented player to a god.
Yeah,
and it's forever replayed as well. I have a feeling that we've mentioned Tony Blair before when we've met on a different podcast.
I'm sure.
But he gave a story where he was doing some sort of he just became prime minister, or around a similar time. And he was visiting some sort of UK embassy in the middle of Cambodia in some sort of jungle. He couldn't speak Cambodian. They couldn't speak English. He was with a bunch of school kids in a playground, and he didn't know what to do. So he just started talking. He just went, "David Beckham," and they all knew who he was.
Right.
Like in the middle of the Cambodian fucking jungle. Yeah. So he's one of those people, maybe similar to Pele and certain other people. You could say his name to people you've never met before. You can't speak the language. They'll know who he is.
Yeah,
He's a common ground.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a very good point. Go on then, Neil. You're number 3.
So it's probably, to me, a sporting icon that most people would agree is a sporting icon is Muhammad Ali. Probably could be at the top of a lot of people's lists.
He might be.
But he was a great ambassador for the sport. He was a great at the sport. He was a great personality away from the sport, but mesmerizing to watch. I mean, obviously I wasn't old enough to appreciate it when he was actually doing it live, but watching the videos back, he was phenomenal. He was absolutely phenomenal. I always wonder how he would get on today if he was to be a fighter today. I mean, it's not the same game, is it, anymore, really? Whereas back then they had to work their way up the ranks to be able to fight at the top. Now seem to be able to pick and choose the fights you want, which always seems to have dragged the sport away a little bit. But yeah, what an absolute sport. You know, we talk of sporting icons, and this guy is it. I'm not too sure how many heavyweight titles he actually won overall.
I think it was around 4.
Was it?
Yeah.
So, you know, but if you were to say to any person on the street, I think, name a famous sportsman, I think a lot of people would say Muhammad Ali. Definitely, if you said the most famous boxer in the world, it would be Muhammad Ali. You know, the guys had talking of Will Smith movies, there you go. It was a great movie, another Will Smith movie. Yeah, I don't think there's a lot else we can say about Muhammad Ali. He just is the legend that is, isn't he? And the great interviews with Parkinson, I always say to people, you should watch some of them.
Yeah, the one where Freddie Starr tells him the scary story. You ever seen that?
Oh yes,
I'll put that in the video playlist. Yeah, that's funny.
That is very funny.
Yeah. Shall we wait a little bit for you to say what you want to say about Ali?
You can do.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do that then. Okay, my number 3 was Alex Higgins. So, Ollie, your number 2 was Pele. So, Neil, what's your number 2?
So, I was, like I said, introduced to football, whereas I should have been following my dad, and I should be a Man United supporter, Ollie. My dad carried on working and neglected to take me to the game. So my cousin jumped in and took me to see Tottenham. Didn't know a lot about them. Went to see him play Crystal Palace, and there was two players on the pitch that really stood out and carried on through the early 80s. And this one was Ricky Villa to me. He was a poster boy to me. I went to see him I got to see him a couple of times play on the pitch. He was mesmerising, and of course we mustn't forget the 81-82 FA Cup finals where he just played his little heart out and was fantastic. And so it's a personal icon, but for me, he is a footballing icon through and through.
Yeah, he wasn't particularly happy during the first, like against Man City, was he, when he got took off in the first game? No. Luckily, it went to the replay, and then that's where he sort of history was made, wasn't it?
Yeah.
God, all right, I'm thinking Ricky Villa and Ozzy Ardiles were the two first foreign transfers, certainly very early.
They were. I don't know whether they were the first, but quite possibly. But like you say, they were. Yeah, around that time, weren't they? Of being the first, and what a partnership it was, and with somebody else as well. But yes, that's where I fell in love with Ricky Villa and Glenn Hoddle. Oh, with somebody else.
Spoilers.
Yeah, oops, I didn't mean to say that. But it was, they were my poster boys. They got me into the squad. My first name on the back of my shirt was somebody else, that we were talking about, and things like that. But it was him that was there for me at the beginning, and still now, if people say who are your favourite Tottenham players, I have a couple, and he is right up there.
One of the greatest FA Cup final goals of all time.
Yeah,
versus Man City, the 1981.
Yep,
without a doubt. Okay, my number two, pretty much on the same lines as you, Neil. It's a very personal one for me. It's a footballer, somebody that I've followed their whole career, just as a footballer and as management, is Kevin Keegan. I'm not ashamed to say I love Kevin Keegan, as in man love Kevin Keegan. There's something about him as a player, the fact that he didn't look like your usual, he's short and stocky, but one hell of a finisher. I don't think the guy got the due that he should have got as a footballer. You look at some of his clips of some of the goals that he scored. He scored all different types of goals with his head, both feet, from the 6-yard box, outside the box. Great movement, a great header of the ball for Liverpool, for Southampton, for Newcastle, for England. Just some iconic moments. And then as a manager, he was the kind of manager that was like of his time, I think. But as that Newcastle team of the 90s, I think, were the best team to never win a Premier League. They should have won a Premier League.
They were called the Entertainers, weren't they?
Yeah. I mean, they were an amazing side. And it was such a shame that it didn't work for him for England. I think it did just show you that it just was maybe just a little bit too much. He didn't quite have that to be a successful England manager. He's one of those guys, that if I ever met him, I don't think I'd be able to say anything. I think I'd be too much in awe. And also B, when it comes to the time when he passes away, I will be devastated. He's one of those people for me. I've got a list of about 5 or 6 of like movie people and sports people that I know that when they go, it won't just be, oh, that's a shame they've passed away. It'll be Carrie Fisher devastated, like I was when she passed away. It's just there are certain people that I think are ingrained in your DNA from a very young age that you've grown up with, and you've seen everything that they've done, and he's definitely one of them for me. Okay, so
and a great head of hair.
And a great head of hair.
Oh, he's one of the few England players to win the Ballon d'Or, and the only person to win it twice, I believe, from England.
Right. Yeah, and he was one of the ones that started the whole perm fashion craze that swept the nation. Even my dad ended up having a perm. I've got the photos to prove it. God, I wish I could have a perm now. I would take the worst haircut ever rather than not having any hair. I just would. Okay, so before we reveal our number one choices, Ollie, do you want to give us a countdown from 10 to 2, please?
I will do my very best. Number 10, sorry.
Number 10 would be great.
Just do a random numbers.
Yeah. We're going to go 7, 4, 3. Yeah. For some reason, I completely forgot about Tony Hawk at number 10. Number 9 was Tiger Woods. Number 8, Mike Tyson. Number 7, Michael Schumacher. Number 6, Serena Williams. Number 5, Usain Bolt. Number 4 was Michael Jordan. Number 3, David Beckham. Number 2, Pele.
Wonderful.
Number 1.
Oh, don't say number 1 yet.
Oh, I was going to ruin it.
Oh,
close.
Neil, if you do on 10 to 2, please.
Absolutely. So 10, Mike Tyson. Number 9, Ronnie OSullivan. 8, Steffi Graf. 7, Pele. 8, Barry Sheen.
8?
5.
What is it with everyone's numbers tonight? Jesus Christ.
I have no idea. It's catching.
This is the pod for dyslexic sports fans, right?
Yeah.
Right.
6, Barry Sheen. Excuse me. 5, Pete Sampras. 4, I nearly said 6 then again. 4, Alex Higgins. 3, Muhammad Ali. 2, Ricky Veer.
Okay, my number 74 is John Lowe. My 6.3 is Tom Brady. Number 8, Shaq. Number 7, Michael Jordan. 6, Mike Tyson. 5, Tiger Woods. 4, Jimmy Connors. 3, Alex Higgins. And number 2, Kevin Keegan. So, Ollie, what is your number one sporting icon?
He was mentioned earlier. It is Muhammad Ali.
Nice.
I don't know. Just everyone knows. You might not even be a boxing fan, as Neil said earlier. He is the best that ever lived, and it's objective. It's not even questioned, is it? From a technical point of view, he was the fastest moving heavyweight, maybe of all time. Just hands that just were in kind of like animation, suspended in disbelief. Really, he changed the sport in the way he boxed, but also outside of the sport. And I think that's what makes an icon. Is not only what they do in the ring, but what they've done out of it. So he's a massive civil rights activist. Converted to Islam, was formerly known as Cassius Clay, of course. And these were huge controversies at the time in the news when you don't have to worry about Johnny Depp and someone else I've never heard of. Like, these are big things that were going on. It was a massive time for change in history. And he was at the focal point of history when time was changing. So you think about the civil rights movements in the 60s. He refused to fight in Vietnam. He was stripped of his titles. He didn't box for 4 years. Now, Tyson Fury, more recently, and the younger listeners will know that he was out the ring for a couple of years, came back. It's incredible because to get to that, similar to Michael Jordan as well, to get to that level again, particularly in boxing, but to have 4 years out and come back and, he lost, didn't he? But then he regained the titles later on. Insane. It just doesn't happen. And to do it because he was a pacifist and it was against his kind of religion and he had his reasons for not doing so. He received death threats. He was one of the most hated men in America at this point. As many people regard him as the greatest boxer of all time, he was hated at one point for not going to war in Vietnam. And history has proved not only was he right not to do so, and it was a pointless war, but he came back. He proved everybody wrong. He won the titles again, and he done it in style. He was the king of self-promotion as well. The reason boxers talk a good game now is all because of Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
The quotes are just endless. I think my favorite one was he could turn the light off in his bedroom and he'll be in bed under the covers before it went dark. To which, you could just get a bedside light. It might be a bit quicker. But just one of the most quotable men on the planet as well. Funny, charming, charisma for days, and I think that translates across all sports. If even the likes of Ronnie OSullivan, arguably the most charismatic snooker player, would that charisma be there if it wasn't for someone like Muhammad Ali, who spoke to the press, spoke to the public, completely being himself and kind of a caricature at times as well. And again, speaking of history, was in the biggest fights of all time, the Thriller in Manila, the Rumble in the Jungle, and they're known by people younger than me. Just the perfect sportsman of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah. And he was showbiz as well. He was the start of showbiz in boxing. without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, it's. I was going to say it's hard to say anything against that, and I haven't got him in my top 10, but it makes perfect sense. Obviously, absolutely does. Good one, Neil. Your number one, then, please.
So mine would have been Muhammad Ali if I hadn't put the next two selfish icons to me in there, and it's Glenn Hoddle for me. And this is basically from when I grew up. Like I said before, I had the name. It was the first football shirt I ever got, the first name on the back. The link-up play that he had with Ricky Villa was fantastic. He was a good footballer. They don't seem to mention him much at all now as being a great footballer, because I think his controversies when he was England manager has tainted everything that he had achieved before. I actually think he was a great manager. I mean, he took Swindon up to the Premier League. I mean, nobody saw that coming, did they? I think he would have been a good England manager if he hadn't been so hooked up with this. What was her name? Eileen or whatever, wasn't it? The guru.
Oh, yeah. It's like Eileen Drury, wasn't it?
Yeah, and all of that palaver. But to me, he was the iconic footballer. He was my poster boy of footballing. And like Pav said, when the day comes that which he nearly did not so long ago with his heart attack, I thought we'd lost one of my legends. And yeah, he's the icon to me. That's all I got to say. There's not a lot else.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
He's regarded as one of the best England players of all time, isn't he? Yeah, speaks volumes.
Mm. I was there when he scored his first goal for England.
Oh, were you?
I was, against Bulgaria. Was it Bulgaria? Yeah, Bulgaria. It was a 2-0 win. Dave Watson, who used to play for Southampton, scored the first goal, and then Glenn Hoddle on his debut scored. And I can remember because it should have been on a Tuesday night, and then Dad bought tickets and we went on a coach, and we just saw the Wembley. Well, we didn't see the Wembley Twin Towers because there was fog and it got called off. And then, so they rearranged it for the following night. So I had to miss another afternoon of school to be able to go and watch it the following night. And it was, they won 2-0 against Bulgaria, and Hoddle scored his first goal.
You've met him as well, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah. And that is the weirdest thing, because when he was Swindon manager, was he the medical guy? Yeah, I think Steve Slattery, his name was, owned the nightclub that I worked at. And they were doing it was like Sing for Britain, some karaoke competition. And they put me in as an entrant in one of the heats, which was amazingly at our nightclub, right? And amazingly, there was Swindon Town. There was Dave Mitchell, who was one of the Swindon players. Glenn Hoddle was one of the Simon Cowells of it, and amazingly I won, which was crazy, considering it was like at the place, and the Swindon people were like the hosts, and then whoever won were then supposed to go onto like the televised round, and I was told I had to wear like the what do you call it, like the logo of our place on a t-shirt, and I ended up not going. I don't think I worked there anymore after when it got to that bit, but yeah, I met Glenn Hoddle then. Yeah.
And was he a nice
very
guy?
nice? He was a lovely bloke, really nice guy. Yeah, really nice guy. He had a massive cold sore on his lip.
Oh no.
So I didn't kiss him, obviously. I wasn't gonna.
Did you buy the single Hoddle and Waddle? Diamond?
No, I didn't know. Diamond Lights?
Yeah.
No, I didn't know.
Less said about that one.
Less said about that one, the better. My number one, again, is a little bit in tandem with my number two. He took over from my number two. It's Kenny Dalglish. And pretty much everything I said for Kevin Keegan, I could say for Kenny Dalglish, to be honest. The fact that the guy became an icon as a Liverpool player and then stepped into the shoes as the manager, and then was just as successful until I think it was Hillsborough that broke him, although he did carry on obviously after that. And then I think it was the 4-4 draw against Everton in a cup match. And after that was when he quit. But then came back to Anfield a couple of seasons later and won the title with Blackburn, which was one of those. I mean, you'll know, Ollie, because it was Man United West Ham, wasn't it? I think, and it was 1-1.
Yeah,
and it was 1-1, and it was like I can remember that the footage on Sky of the. I think Jamie Redknapp scored in the last minute, and we won the game 2-1. And there's a guy who looks just like Hugh Grant in the crowd, absolutely devastated. Then he hears that it's 1-1 at was it at West Ham that game? I think it was, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they'd won the title. So the fact that Dalglish had won the title at Anfield was absolutely perfect. It was one of those perfect scenarios. We won the game. Dalglish won the title at Anfield, but obviously for another club. But it was perfect. And now he's an ambassador for Liverpool. He's always there. Just and another guy that I wouldn't be able to say anything if I met him. I wouldn't make his day any better if he just sees a grown man crying at his feet. It wouldn't be worth it. It just wouldn't be worth it. I'm assuming that you'd be the same if you met Alex Ferguson or someone like that, wouldn't you, Ollie?
Absolutely. Just what can you say to someone like that?
Yeah, you're not going to make their day any better.
No, I think you just need to be in awe,
yeah,
like some sort of godly deity. Just kind of go. I just
Well
saw
done.
that person. I actually did see David Beckham not too long ago. I went to watch Man United Arsenal, and I saw David Beckham, and I could have asked for a photo. I chose not to. He's a part of history. It's kind of like it's kind of like watching Da Vinci paint the Mona Lisa or something. It's just just leave him be. Let him get on with it.
Yeah,
Just observe.
Just observe.
Yeah, because like I say, if I met Kenny Dalglish, I know after seeing him, he wouldn't be walking away going, that's a top bloke there that's just cried at my feet. What a guy! He's really made my day. There's nothing you can do to make it any better. So bless it. So that's it. We've done that. We had a couple of honourable mentions. Andrew Connor, who's been a guest a couple of times. Hello, Andrew. Henrik Larsson was his sporting icon. At FTLOL podcast said, class topic, Michael Jordan and Muhammad Ali are about as iconic as they come. And our friend Stu Grant has got a little bit of a list here. So he says Michael Jordan, Phil Taylor, Kenny Dalglish, Pele, Ronnie O'Sullivan, Michael Johnson. That's the runner, isn't it, Michael Johnson?
It's not the rugby player.
No, it's the runner, isn't it? I thought it was
Oh, yeah. So
who's the rugby player?
Yeah, isn't the rugby player Michael Johnson?
Isn't it Martin Johnson?
Martin Johnson. Yeah, Michael Johnson, the runner. Billie Jean King, Muhammad Ali, and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Ooh, controversial.
$6 million man.
See, I would know nothing about that.
No.
Because I know nothing about wrestling, so I couldn't.
And also,
wrestling.
I would say, with all respect, with no disrespect, that's not a sport. That is entertainment. That is entertainment.
He became an actor like the rest of them, didn't he?
Yeah,
Were
but yeah, exactly. And it's, like I say, I'm not being disrespectful. I just think that we class that as entertainment, because isn't it already sorted out who's winning and who's not? It's a script, and no disrespect, please, wrestling fans. Okay, we've got it done. Before we go, we need to speak to you, Ollie, about your viral and
kind of, yeah.
Which I hope you've got some cream for.
Explain what happened, Ollie. Please.
Yeah, explain all about it.
It's mad. So I did a podcast called The Team of Our Lives. It's all based on football in the noughties. So at the end, as you guys will know, being guests, we open a packet of football stickers. I've got some here. If you want to open them in a few minutes' time.
I think so.
Try and find some icons.
Yeah.
So yeah, we opened a packet of vintage or classic football stickers from years gone by. I think mainly from the noughties, as our podcast suggests. And I decided to put one of these pack openings on TikTok. Basically, blew up. Got over 1 million views in like a week. It's now to the extent where I've got 40,000 followers nearly on the old TikTok. I'm buying and selling football stickers. So I've opened up a new business. It's gone berserk. I've got like over 10 million views on the whole channel. It's it's gone absolutely berserk. In fact, I opened a packet from 1986 about an hour ago, a couple of hours ago. So from the World Cup in 1986, I opened the packet. Didn't find Glenn Hoddle, I'm afraid, or Kenny Dalglish, but who are both at that tournament. I love doing it. I love interacting with people, speaking about sport and sport history. It was kind of what we do. And yeah, we've built this really kind of strong community on TikTok. And yeah, if you want to follow me, find me out. Jenks Ollie, JENKSOLLIE. I do pack openings from the 1980s all the way up to present day. Really, it's mad.
We'll put the link on the show notes so that people can just hopefully click on it, or at least
I'm sure they'll find it.
It's all about @ isn't it? You have to put the @
it's a pain in the ass, yeah.
Something like that, yeah. But that's awesome. I have watched a few, so some of those 10 million are me watching some of them. I just find it. I think it is one of those things. It's just fascinating because you don't know what's in that packet, do you? You know.
I did. It's the reactions. I think a lot of people follow for. There's some people that don't like football who just either in it for my sexy voice or
well, I think it's that as well.
Yeah, or just my reactions to getting it. I think I got a really rare Lionel Messi from like 2005, and some of them sell for like £30,000. Speaking of Pele, as we've done earlier, so he's also the most expensive ever football sticker to sell for $1.3 million.
Wow.
From 1958, whatever it was. But
wow.
Yeah, there's money in this to be made as well. So
yeah, absolutely. So you're going to open that. You're going to open that pack.
Yeah. So what I thought I'd give you a glimpse into the magic that happens on TikTok. So I've got a pack here from the 2010 World Cup vintage year, because it's the first World Cup in Africa. You're going to find the likes of Messi and potentially Ronaldo in here as well. From 12 years ago. So this pack's been sealed for over a decade, which is quite incredible.
That's crazy.
So I'll open it now. You can hear the rip in the microphone.
Here we go. Nice.
There we go. So what we do on the pods is that we get our guests on, we open the packet, and we kind of rank it out of 10. Not sure where you guys finished, or if we finished what we're doing.
Well, we were top, I think, because I think we had a really good pack, but I haven't seen lately. So maybe somebody might have. I think we were joint top. It was like 72. Was that a good
7.2 maybe?
7.2, something like that.
So we have a Top Gear style leaderboard, and we kind of rank our guests. Okay. So here we've got in this 2010 pack, we have Lucas Tiala of South Africa. Not a great one, let's be honest.
Okay.
We have the shiny Argentina badge. It's always good to get a shiny.
That's nice. I like that.
Quality stuff there. That would score highly if we were scoring. Who else do we have here? We have the Portugal team, so that has Ronaldo in it somewhere. Not bad at all.
Not
bad at all.
Very good.
Well, we got half of a stadium in Johannesburg.
Okay.
So just half the capacity. And finishing off with Walter Samuel of Argentina, playing for Roma, Inter Milan, and Real Madrid. So a very good player. Yeah, there we go. So that's
wonderful. I bought him for Liverpool on a Football Manager.
Did you?
I did. Yeah, I can always remember that name, Walter Samuel.
Yeah, sounds.
What a great way to finish the pod. Thank you so much for that, Ollie.
Thank you, guys.
I'm gonna snip that little bit of the video and stick it on TikTok and see if we get 10 million views for that.
Yeah.
Just ride your coattails for a little bit. Before we do say our goodbyes, Neil, do you want to tell everybody how they can get involved? And
yes, of course. So I'll fly through this, listen ahead, and find out all the bits. So you can find us on all the social medias at Top 10 Pods. Give us a click, give us a like, give us a follow. Email us at toptenpods@hotmail.com, where you can suggest any categories that you can think of. Come and help support the podcast at patreon.com/top10pods, where there's loads of rewards, including being a guest yourself. Come and check those out, and check out all of the links via the Linktree. You can find the link in the show notes. And finally, please come and subscribe. Leave us a rating or review wherever you get your podcast from.
Wonderful. And remember, if you are a middle floor or top of the tower tier podcast Patreon subscriber, you'll be able to watch the video playlist. There's going to be some wonderful videos on there, especially with all these different icons and loads of fantastic moments. But no Steffi Graf porn. No, we're not going to put those on the. That's just for the.
Keep that to yourself.
I will keep that to myself. I will do some extensive research after we finish recording. So, Ollie, thank you so much for joining us. It's always fantastic to chat to you, mate. Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. I will also put the link to the Team of Our Lives podcast as well on the show notes. Please have a listen to that if you're a fan of the Auties, is that what you call it? The Naughties?
Naughties, yeah.
The Naughties. There you go. It's definitely worth a listen. Neil, thank you so much as always.
Thank you very much, pal. Thank you very much, Ollie. It's been great to see you again.
Cheers, guys. Likewise.
Thank you very much. Let's go start the countdown. 10.